Welcome to Classics You Slept Through, the book podcast where we read and discuss classic books. I'm your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who has never challenged a rival to a duel, my sister, Mare. How's it going, Mare?
Good. I hope to never be involved in a duel. They sound terrible.
They are very frightening, I would assume. A little one-on-one combat. Yeah, I agree. I'm not doing a duel either. Well, today we are going to wrap up Wieland, a book we have been reading for a little bit here. Wieland by Charles Brockden Brown tells the tale of the Wieland family, Clara and her brother Theodore, and their trials and tribulations as their father spontaneously combusts, and then
Oh yeah, that happened in the
that
beginning.
happened at the beginning of the book, and then they meet this mysterious Carwin who can speak with multiple tongues and voices, and he kind of ruins their life until the point that Theodore kills his family, and then Clara murders, I don't know, causes the death of her lover's spouse so that she can marry him. And then,
You're blaming her for Teresa?
well, I mean,
Teresa?
come on. Is it not kind of suspicious that Teresa dies right after she confesses her love? But we'll get into that.
Well, not right after. A year and something
Well,
go by.
You're right. A year and a half to go by, I suppose. She was pen
Maybe it was like a
pals.
hex or a curse.
Yes, pen pals with,
It take
with
a
her
while.
husband. And then randomly we learned the tale of Luisa's family. Luisa, who I don't think had, but maybe, did she even have any lines? Did she say anything? Or was she just sort of there? I can't remember. I don't know. But anyway,
I don't know.
we spent a
I don't
good
think
bit
she
of time
said
on her
anything.
family. Probably not. Anyway, so we finished this book. Overall, what did you think, Mare, of Wieland?
Okay. The story, great. Like in general. I feel like when we summarize it, I'm like, whoa, what a crazy book.
It is very crazy.
What a crazy story. This would be a better movie than a book. I I think Charles Brockden Brown needed a better editor and needed to cut a bunch of stuff. I don't know that I slept through it, but I also didn't necessarily stay awake. I was a little bit indifferent. Every now and then I was like, whoa, this is nuts. I love this part. And then there would be this lengthy divergence or description or something. And I was like, ugh, all right, let's get to the good part. And when I describe it to people, they think the same thing. Like, I need to read that book. What a crazy book. But I feel like it would be a better, well done B horror movie.
Yeah. No,
What
I
did
agree.
you think?
I
Oh,
mean,
good.
Brockton Brown definitely missed the boat on selling the movie rights. That is 100%. Which, come on, Hollywood. I mean, I stand with SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild, but once you guys resolve something and get a decent contract everyone's happy with, come on, this book's in the public domain.
Right?
This would make a great movie. Anyway, yeah, I think the story was definitely interesting. I think it's kind of like when you watch old movies nowadays. You know, the one I always think about. Have you seen Double Indemnity?
No.
It's a good movie, but a lot of the movie hinges on the fact that people, in order to get a phone call, you had to like be sitting by the phone or physically in the room at the time. Whereas nowadays, you don't miss phone calls because we carry phones on our person. And so a movie like that is just like, well, just call them. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't miss a phone call. Like, you would get the phone call, and it isn't scary any longer. I kind of feel that this is that sort of thing. Like, ventriloquism or whatever is like this weird, mysterious art. Whereas now it'd be like, okay, you did what? Okay, all right.
Jeff Dunham killed who?
Yeah,
What?
exactly. Exactly. Oh, I hate that.
Or Jeff Dunham made you kill who?
That's our example of modern ventriloquism. I hate that. But anyway, but yeah, you know, it's like, oh, okay, he's a ventriloquist. Great. That's kind of dorky. Good job, Carwin. Yeah, and a lot of, you know, we kind of discussed it maybe at the end of last episode, that a lot of the tension would be diffused by just talking to each other. So, I don't know. So, I agree. I say I was drowsy for this one. I wasn't fully awake, but it didn't. I think some of the language was tough to get through.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it. There were parts I thought that were tougher to read than Frankenstein, but there were parts that I thought were much easier. So it really sort of bounced around with how Brockton Brown wrote it.
And Brockton Brown was friends with or inspired by Mary Shelley's father. Oh,
Right.
what's his name? I forget. Anyway, God, no. Godwin was her mother's maiden name. Regardless, Percy Price Shelley
Yes,
is
sounds
her
right.
dad.
Sounds right.
Oh man. I got a master's degree a long time ago. It's not a PhD, so come on. Give me a break. uh I and you and I originally, and you brought it to me and you wanted to read it because of the Philadelphia connection, and it didn't feel that Philly connected.
No.
I
I mean, they
there
mentioned the
were
school kill. Okay.
and like the PA farm to which Carwin retired,
Right.
which, side note, having studied and traveled abroad with lots of also international people, I learned that people from Pennsylvania are like the only people who refer to their state as the abbreviation. Like no one's like, I'm from TX. I'm
Oh,
from NJ. People always are like, I'm from PA.
you're right.
Isn't that weird?
I never thought of that before. Wow.
When they said that to me and they're like, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from the States. I'm from PA. They're like Pennsylvania. Nobody else is like CA, MI,
All right, listeners
FL.
in other states, do you refer to your state as its abbreviation or not? That's going to be our Spotify question. So jump on Spotify and answer the question. Do you refer
Right?
to your state by its state abbreviation?
I think Pennsylvania is the only one that does. We couldn't possibly have the most syllables, do we? Pennsylvania. 5.
5. California. California's 5.
Only if you say
Massachusetts.
ia, California. California. It's like a nya.
Yeah. Okay. What are those long states? Massachusetts. That's 4. Maybe we are the longest state.
I don't know, man.
Alabama. That's 4. Mississippi. 4. Oh my goodness.
Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Well,
I
yeah,
guess you
you're
could
doing
do
the
the
California thing. You just
Pennsylvania.
criticized me for saying California. Now you're saying Pennsylvania as opposed to
Pennsylvania.
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 Yeah, because Sylvania.
Like,
No, I guess that's
and
3. Sylvania. No, it's still 3. Pennsylvania. That's 4. I don't know. Pennsylvania would be 5. My goodness.
we spend more time on Pennsylvania and than Brockton Brown did.
Yes, this
right
is
now.
what we just did. You are correct.
But I thought there was going to be like we had these big ideas of like
Right.
traveling around to the places that they reference, and I'm like, I can't even guess the places that he's. I mean, the school kill is a school kill. Okay,
Right.
great. I'll take a picture of the river. But like, there is like a pagoda or like a little place that I imagine is the temple that is close to Boathouse Row and the art museum and that whole area. But it wasn't exactly what I pictured in the book.
Right.
Of course, it's more rural back then. It's not
Sure.
the Philadelphia of today or the Bucks County or the whatever of today, but Montcalm, Phil, whatever. I live here and I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there wasn't like a homestead that I could picture that exactly matched what they're talking about in the book.
Right.
Anyway, if you distill the story down, it sounds very exciting. I feel like the book is as much about what's going on as it is about Clara's writing process. She's always bringing you in and out of the fourth wall, or maybe it's Brockton Brown's writing process, but he's talking about writing to the audience about whether it's difficult to write or where she is in time. And I'm going to die after I write this. And people are asking me to write this. I didn't want to write this, versus just telling the story. And it wasn't epistolary in like Dear So-and-so,
Right.
like Dracula
Well, it
was.
was Dear Us. She was, I mean, right? I mean, she was writing to
I
us.
guess
I mean, I don't know.
whoever us is, although she did say that the writing of it helped her at the end, which is true, scientifically proven. They've done studies. If you journal and you write about your stress, then you report feeling less stressed and less burdened. So perhaps that also helped her get over her grief, along with the location of said grief being burned to the ground and the perpetrator of said grief having killed himself. So everything that was bad in life had gone away
Right.
and out of sight, out of mind. And now she's with Pleyel because his wife is out of sight and out of mind because she's dead. Wieland's dead. The house is burned. She's in France.
She's
Carwyn's
remarried.
Carwyn's in Pennsylvania somewhere. In her mind, clearly reflecting on what he did and regretting it. And so she really has like the ultimate fresh start. And
After all this trauma, but yes.
right, but she fully writes out the trauma
Yeah.
to the point where sometimes in the book she's talking about how writing it is so difficult she had to stop. She had to like skip a part or something, or didn't know if she could continue.
Right.
She lived it, she got it out, she left, started anew. Maybe it's a good tale of like, here's how you deal with extreme trauma and grief.
Well, as we talked last time, I think it is a moral cautionary tale to like not let your passions overcome you, and hey, if we just communicate, you can avoid a lot of this stuff. Because I mean, you said last time you called it victim blaming, whereas Brockton Brown, I think, is victim warning, to say like, yes, Carwyn set things in motion, as did, Major Stewart, but they both families could have avoided a lot of this had they just done things differently and not fallen victim to these simple tricks, basically.
Hindsight, armchair quarterback,
Sure,
all of
yeah,
that.
of course, of course.
Had you just not done this one thing, or but also, I don't know, I don't know. I see how the Stuart Maxwell one, like it wasn't quite infidelity.
It was
an
emotional. I mean, it was
emotional infidelity.
Right.
Yeah. Um, that one I could see how communication would work.
because Stewart even encouraged her to make friends with Maxwell. So
Yeah.
I guess he was trying to atone for his brashness and with the first duel, where he got angry and wounded Maxwell. So he's like, hey, why don't you be friends with him? He seems like a nice guy now.
How do you be friends with him?
Exactly, right. You're the one that injured him in a duel.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then to get mad when your wife, like, ends up falling in love with him when you encouraged it. Like, bro, what did you think was going to happen?
Did not suspect this man that might hold a grudge against me.
Right.
He betrayed me.
Yeah. Oh, crazy.
But the other one, I mean, the deception was so absurd and complete. Like, they did not suspect someone else mimicking their voices and
No.
other than the fact of saying this is actually absurd, and like we talked about, like at least Pleyel and Claire, like this goes against everything I know about you, and so therefore I can't believe it. Not I can't believe it, but like
Right.
can't believe it.
Actually
It doesn't
trust
make
the person
any
that
sense.
you know of this
Right.
one incident.
But it's so wild that I don't see how how can this be cautionary to other people? Like, be careful. You might not know that someone else can throw and mimic their voice, and therefore do not be. I, I mean, if there was, I don't know, if someone had a voice of God, it came down at a certain person's rally at a certain moment, people would do things and wouldn't think
Oh,
twice about
jeez.
it. I think that's obvious. I don't. People can be
Oh, they can. People can
can
be manipulated. This is definitely,
yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to throw your voice
No,
and mimic anyone.
no.
You could just gaslight to eternity, and people will
Now.
now.
Yeah, I will say, talking about this book, the characters didn't see. I didn't see it coming either. In those early chapters, I thought for sure we were going to get into something supernatural. There and honestly, so I was talking to a friend of mine who is she was a literary professor at the college level for her career, and I'd mentioned to her that we were reading Wieland, and she loved the book, and I said, okay, you love the book. Tell me why you love the book. And this was back when we were maybe halfway through it. And she said, and so I have to say this kind of colored my analysis a little bit, but she said, I love it because it's completely left open to your interpretation. Like, he doesn't tie up any loose ends for you, basically. So you can draw whatever conclusions you want. And looking back on the book as a whole, like I said in the beginning, I thought that it was going to be supernatural. And it turns out it's all Carwin throwing his voice. He can mimic women, he can mimic men, to a perfect degree that people. I mean, he fooled Wieland with the voice of his wife. Remember in the first
Right.
incident. So the person he probably knows her voice the best of anyone, he was able to mimic, and he was not even part of their friend group at the time. He just had heard her voice, and he was able to mimic it to that degree. So once that kind of happened, I was slightly disappointed, but go back. How did their father explode?
Mm.
Right? Their father exploded. There was like a gaseous cloud. When Clara came to the house, or I guess Wieland, which maybe both of them, and Carwin was giving the voice, like, there was the aspect of an angel, right? Or of some supernatural thing. Like, there was sparks coming from his eyes. There was a halo of
Mm.
light around him, if you recall. Like, that stuff was still unexplained. So, did Wieland and Clara, did they see Carwin?
Hmm.
He didn't seem to have any sort of stage makeup or artifice to that level where he would create this visage, right? So they saw something. I mean, maybe it was, again, it's open to interpretation. Was it a hallucination? Was it really some supernatural apparition they're seeing?
Because it's not just Wyland seeing it. His sister in like
Right.
the hallway, she sees the
She
light in the
sees.
face, and she's like, "What? Wait, was that Carwin's face?" But like, it wasn't
Right.
just, "Oh, I saw someone's face."
Right.
Uh,
Exactly. And the father exploding. We've discussed, like, how did that happen? Was there something? I mean, Carwin didn't do that. He wasn't even in the picture then, right? That was years before Carwin ever showed up. Because that was when
true.
Clara was like 16. And then you've got her grandfather seeing his brother and running off the cliff. Right? So, I mean, all these other things happened. Is it an element of the supernatural? Is it generational psychosis or something? Like, they're all sort of crazy and they see things?
Well, at least it sets up in the narrative that the characters have a reasonable um, uh, lack of a sense of reality, or well, my dad exploded and his uncle ran off a cliff, so
Right.
clearly these things can happen, whereas someone else who doesn't have those experiences, like their like bottom line of normal is like that stuff doesn't happen,
Right. Right.
so everything else is weird. But because their bottom line isn't quote unquote normal, then the things that they're experiencing aren't necessarily weird to them.
Right. And Brockton Brown does not give us an omniscient narrator to tell us the right answer. Like we
No, it's
don't
just
know.
Clara.
It's just Clara, and she even admits that her recollections are wrong, and that she gets, and in the book she gets things wrong. So she's unreliable as a narrator as well.
Yeah.
So we don't. So it's completely left open, right? We don't know any answers by the end of the book as far as what happened, why they let Carwin off the hook, why he just gets away with it, and what does he do next, and
Because he didn't do anything.
right. But then it comes to the thing I want to talk about. What was Carwin's motivation for all of this? Like, why did he tell Wieland to kill his family?
Well, he says that. I mean, he doesn't say it, but he sort of, when he explains to Clara, oh God, what chapter is it? He talks about what he did.
But
He
does he
just,
say why?
I feel like it was like I wanted to see if I could,
If I
and
could, yeah. But
it was
why
an
choose that? I mean, we understand why he did what he did to Pleyel and ruining Clara's reputation. Because he wanted to have sex with Clara and she liked Pleyel, so he's like, well, I'm going to ruin it just to be a jerk, right? Like, that's, I can't have what I want, so I'm going to make sure that Pleyel doesn't have what he wants. But why tell Wieland to kill his family? Like, and then he does it. You know, so wouldn't you at some point be like, whoa, hey man, voice of God again, good job. You can abort now, buddy.
oops, a toodle on me.
Right, but
Didn't mean it.
but he tells him, right? He tells him to kill them, and then he tells, like, the voice of God told Wieland, "Hey, job's not done. Finish Clara too." So if
Right?
Carwin is doing this, like, he's aware that Wieland has killed his family, and he's still egging him on. Hey, go kill Clara. Make sure you finish the job, buddy. Like, so to me, again, this is, Clara is our narrator, right? So she's only relaying to us what Carwin tells her. So our interpretation is, Carwin lying to her by saying, well, I just see if I could do it. Come on, man. Like, to me, that doesn't pass the smell test, you know? Like,
Yeah.
why would you continue to tell him, hey, finish the job, man. Clara too. Come on, everything. Because remember, he says, he did it in stages, because he said, kill your wife. And so he does. And then, remember, the voice of God says, all right, now your children too, buddy. Do it all. So, if Carwin's saying this, if there's no supernatural here, Carwin's aware that it worked. Like, if I'm doing it just to do it, whoa, okay, it worked. He killed his family. All right, now let's see if he'll do his children too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a little sick.
It's really sick. And I'm trying to find the spot in the book where he talks about it, but I, I feel like the that it was an unsatisfactory description of like his explanation was unsatisfactory
Right.
to everyone. And then, of course, again, it's Clara telling us what he said. And Wieland already has this predisposition to these things. And at some point, she was convinced it was all Carwin's fault. So maybe we can't trust any of it.
Right. I mean, 23 and 24 is when Carwin is kind of explaining himself, but we need to look at what Wieland says happens. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's where we know what he heard, right? Or at least, so that's 19, I think. And 19 and 20. So what's it say? I'm looking through here.
I mean, part of his explanation to her is like, I've gone too far to stop.
To stop doing it.
I don't know if
I have to make sure that Wieland, like, if Wieland's family is still alive, that he'll figure out that what he did was wrong. So I got to have him kill everybody, so that way he's definitely, like, put to death or something. Cover his tracks. I mean, at that point, you'd think he'd just be able to tell Wieland to kill himself, and he'd do it, you know. But that's a little bizarre, I think.
So she loves it. So this literature professor, former literature professor, loves this book because there isn't anything tied up, except it moralizes at the end as if it's trying to tie itself up.
True.
Like, here's this cautionary moralizing tale. And I don't know if I think that that's what the book is about at all. That's almost like a throwaway. Like you said in the last episode, it could have ended at chapter 26. We didn't need
Right.
27 at all.
Right. Except that he's trying. So there's another analysis that I read in prepping for this that says part of the reason he puts the Maxwell Stewart story in there is to take the religious fervor of Wieland and tie it to like social ills and social slights. So let's see. It says he's saying that what applies in religious conduct applies in social conduct as well. So it says this is from a scholar, Bernard Rosenthal. He says that it takes the moral of a religious tale and shows its application to that of a conventional seduction story.
So people could dismiss as like, well, I'm not a religious fanatic and I would never believe a voice that tells me to kill my family. And so, okay, this
But
is a
if I'm making
throwaway
friends
story.
with this lady next door, maybe I shouldn't do that. Yeah.
God's not telling me to cheat on my husband/wife.
Right.
Not telling me to get involved in it, but so they moves it to what could potentially be an everyday normal thing that people should watch out for.
Right.
And just throws it in at the end.
Which, yeah, it's kind of done in a ham-handed kind of way. Like, you'd think he could have, like, weaved the two tales together so you would see the parallels. I don't know, as opposed to just...
I feel like there could have been more done with Pliel and Teresa if he wanted to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
But then Clara could not be some shining whatever.
Well, I think she would always standing up next to Teresa, who faked her own death so she could move to America and marry Pliel. Like, I don't know, man. There's something going on with her because her husband died too. Remember, she was a widow. So there's all kinds of foul play throughout this
right,
book.
which sounds like, man, you would stay awake for this book, and yet,
right,
and yet, this book could have been an email. This book could have been a TikTok or something.
Wieland kills wife and kids. Yeah, we should definitely classic book TikToks. Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't even know. I don't have TikTok. I never did. Never had Twitter.
I don't need the Chinese spying on me, so no, I do not either. Anyway. All right, so that brings us anything else you want to talk about this book? I mean, interesting. I'm glad we read it. So kind of tying back to what you said earlier about, so the reason I selected it is I'd read about it on an NPR, like they picked like books per state, right? And this is a book that they'd picked specifically for Pennsylvania, and the way they had described it. So the impression I got from their description, and maybe the NPR article writer didn't actually read the book. I don't know. But the impression I'd gotten was it was scenes of post-Revolutionary War Philadelphia, and maybe this is something else we can talk. The subhead on this thing, Wieland, or the transformation. See, I thought it was going to be about the transformation of America or Philadelphia in the post-war period. I don't know what we were transforming in this one. I mean, Carwin
transforms, sort of.
Right. It's sort of a throwaway because remember he put it in all caps when we get Carwin introduced that he was living as some other name and he was speaking in, perfect local Spanish and he seemed like a Spaniard and you would have never thought he was an Englishman. So he was sort of could transform himself into other things, I guess, with his vocal ability. But otherwise...
It's named for Wieland. It's not Carwin. The transformation.
It's a story of Wieland, even though Carwin looms large as a figure.
And Wieland, I guess, is the one who he transforms into loving brother, scholar, to murderer, insane zealot?
Yeah.
I don't don't know.
Yeah.
Would you call him a zealot?
Yeah. I mean, he was definitely affected by his father's death and his father's zealotry, and then he follows along on it.
Yeah.
Even though, if we remember, the dad wasn't particularly religious. He just, you know what I mean? Like he wasn't like
He like chose
he
specific
chose
pieces.
pieces. Yeah, it was more
To,
ritual to him than
yeah.
religion, if I recall the beginning of the book. But yeah, so yeah, calling it the transformation is also an interesting.
There's a second one, right? There's a
Carwin the Biloquist.
yeah. I
So
mean,
that might be a fun read to follow up on our buddy Carwin and see what happens. I don't know. Is it a
we
sequel?
might
Is
be
it a
compelled to do it. Be like, wait, there has to be more. It's so
there's a
interesting, and
voice
yet
telling me to read it, I think. I'm hearing it. I must read Carwin the Biloquist. Well, folks, if you read Carwin the Biloquist, please let us know. And if it makes any sense in the context of Wieland here. Anyway. All right, anything else we want to talk on Wieland before we move on here?
no,
All right.
no.
We have, drum roll please, we actually have a mailbag. Mailbag's open. That's right, folks. We
Hooray!
have mail. So if you want to send us a note, email address is cystpod@gmail.com. So we got a little note here, Mayor, from Thomas Wieland. He says, hello. He just wanted to send a message in appreciation of the podcast. Listened to all of our Frankenstein podcasts for his exams and absolutely loved them. He loved the mix of our analysis and banter. And Tom is from rural Ireland.
His
So,
name is Thomas Wieland.
Whelan. Yeah, I know, right?
Wait, what?
Whelan.
Oh,
Whelan. Not Wieland. Yeah, not
I was
Wyland.
like, oh my God.
Thomas Wyland from the grave. Yeah. No, unfortunately, he sent this back when I guess we were doing Frankenstein still, or at least he was listening to our Frankenstein. So Tom, how did you do on your exams? Was the exam on Frankenstein, or was it you were just listening to us to distract you from your studying? Let us know how you did, Tom. We'll do a follow-up.
That's great,
See how you
Tom.
did. Good job.
Wieland, not Wyland.
Not Wyland. All right. So next we have it's time for another book. So
Time for
folks,
another book.
I don't know what this is. So Mare, take it away. What are we reading next?
We've spent a lot of time in really old classic lit. So I want to do a full shift
Oh.
to some modern classic lit that got me into classic lit. So
Okay.
we're going to read some Hemingway. And
Oh.
if I remember correctly, you haven't read much or any Hemingway. Is that true?
I read The Old Man and the Sea back in
Okay.
high school, I think.
All right.
The Pearl.
We're going to
Was The
read.
Pearl? That was Hemingway too.
I don't know. Anyway, listen, you're disrupting my speech.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
We're going to read short stories, which again is something we haven't done. And we're going to read something from 19. It has a 19 in front, not an 18, not a 17, a 19, 27. We're going to read Hemingway's collection of short stories called Men Without Women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Men Without Hats. Classic 80s band for a safety dance.
Right. There are 14 short stories, one of which is really famous, at least one of which is really famous and has been anthologized over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of good modern conversation about it. But this is the collection that has Hills Like White Elephants. Usually that's the short story that most people know if they know Hemingway short stories. But there's 14 short stories. And I'm excited to figure out if we're each going to do like 2 an episode or 1 and read a short story each, or should we do them back and forth? I think it's good for a live session. So I'm pumped about what we're going to do with this.
Yeah, we have not done short stories. We've done, rip old RPAN, but back on Reddit we used to.
Good times.
It was. We used to broadcast. We did some Christmas short stories. We did. What else? We did what's his face? Oh, yeah,
Tails Poe.
Flowers for Algernon.
Uh-oh.
What's his name? I can't think of his name. Escaping me. We did Two Bro, To Be. We did that.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. That was wasn't that
Vonnegut?
Vonnegut?
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah, it was a Vonnegut story.
Why did you say Flowers for Algernon?
Because didn't Vonnegut write that?
No.
What? Oh, who wrote that?
No, Flowers for Algernon is by Daniel Keyes.
Oh, I've always thought it was Vonnegut. I don't know.
No.
All right, folks, that shows you my literature education
Yeah.
from high school. Anyway.
My house is getting really loud right now. Everybody is.
All right, so anyway, cool. Hemingway short stories. We will
Yes.
Men Without Women.
Mm-hmm.
So we will figure out what our reading assignments are going to be. So by the time you check this episode out, by the time you are listening to this or watching this on the YouTubes, go on down below. It'll be in the show notes. Whatever we're doing for next episode, I'll have it in there by then. We've got plenty of time for that. And we'll figure out how we're breaking this thing down. But yeah, that'll be cool. I am curious to see how short stories will go. It'll make the discussions, I guess, quicker, and we'll have more things to talk about, less things. I don't know. Kind of wrap up one and then go into another.
Yeah, we'll see. And the wrap could be the book as a whole and see if there's some sort of cohesion there.
Theme throughout. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, hey, if you want to keep up with us, send us an email like old Tom did. You can send us an email, cystpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media. We are at cystpod on Facebook and the Instagram. And you run the Instagram, so maybe you should just start a Threads. You want to start running the Threads too? I don't know.
Oh man, I'm so not good at Instagram.
I know.
I'm trying.
Or
Social media is not my
Mastodon,
forte.
.social/@cystpod, currently on Mastodon. We'll see if we go to Threads. I don't know. Social media is so crazy nowadays. But we are all on YouTube at cystpod, so check us out there. Hopefully you're watching our video episodes. You can listen to us on Spotify, download us, Apple Podcasts. If you like what we're doing, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. Let us know what you like, don't like. We'll go from there. You can also give us a star rating on Spotify. Check us out. And on Spotify, there's also questions per episode. So check out the different questions and interact that way with your gracious and humble hosts here. We've been doing this thing for you folks for 3 years now. Crazy to say, but we've been enjoying it. So yeah, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, so you don't miss anything on
Smash it.
Smash it, yes.
Smash it.
Smash it. Well, until next time, summer break is almost over, so you know teacher's going to ask you what you did on summer break. So start getting your cool essay ideas assembled now, and we will see you all next time with the first part of Men Without Women. Check out the show notes for exactly how much we're reading.